that expression, in my waiting, I was waiting. Now, what's the difference between waiting and in my waiting, I was waiting? It would be the same as saying, in my stillness, I am still. In order to remove it from a neutral, objective stillness, in my stillness, I am still. Nothing moving, just still. And it's good to start to get a notion of the truth of what I am, the unmoved mover. My nature is unchanging, unmoving. My true nature, my swarupa, it's unchanging. In my stillness, I am still. Because I can also be busy in my stillness. If you've engaged any aspect of your mind. In my waiting, I am waiting. Some people wait like this. I'm waiting for you. Or I can be waiting in my waiting. In the stillness, I am still. And as much as everything in manifestation is moving, and in as much as we've identified with everything in manifestation, it's also moving in me. But if I can find access to stillness or an unmoving center, then how would the outside look if I could abide in that momentarily? It might allow me to see how seriously I sometimes can take everything around me. When I'm swept up in the doer, if I can be the witnesser or that stillness where there is no doer, it hasn't arisen, it's inactive, that predisposes me to a sense of aboveness or detachment, not plugged in, so to speak. And these moments are much easier to gain access to if I am in that environment, like nature. And how it was practiced in Hogsback was in the motion. There was no motion. And we referred to it then as walking in background consciousness. My life is spent in foreground awareness. In other words, human awareness. And the difference between background consciousness and foreground awareness is that one is locking onto specifics. One has let go of all specifics. And the way it was practiced was in Hogsback, where it was flat, would be to have a soft gaze, as you see on all of those beautiful Indian paintings of saints. Look in their eyes. They half open, half closed. They're neither in this world or that world. They've straddled both. A soft gaze is one that's let go of all specifics. And to do that, you can't keep watching where you might stumble across a brick or a. So you need a surface that is predictable and allows you to zoom out. And then you can sense or feel or be aware of background consciousness. And how that was addressed to separate them out initially was if a mother is cooking something on the stove, her little boy is quite close behind her, and he can get burnt if he reaches up to the gas flame. So she's very aware of his presence, but not his specific location. So in background consciousness, she's awareing her son is here, but her foreground awareness is with specifics. So walking in background consciousness is letting go of all specifics in order to be with omnipresence. And that requires a soft gaze, like you see in all of that Indian painting. They've let go of specifics. It's a look in the eye that says they haven't landed anywhere. And then which is closer to my truth? It's pretty clear. It's not foreground specifics. It's an aspect of my nature, but it's not my truth. It's an aspect of nature in the waking dream, but it's not the truth of what I am. And in the scriptures, Eastern scriptures, my nature is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Consciousness, existence, bliss. There's no karta there. There's no doer there. It's gone beyond. And walking in background consciousness is an attempt to emulate that to some degree, at least on a fundamental mental plane. And all of this is a wonderful antidote to taking life too seriously, becoming too preoccupied with too many details, not having a break, getting enmeshed, being identified with what's in front of me. And is it a good thing or a bad thing to be identified with what's in front of me? Hmm? Hmm? What's doing? Well, it depends how we mean it. Okay, so you're teasing this out. So there are times when I need to be with specifics. And the times when I am off duty and can drop and be quiet and come back home. And it's these moments that keep me in a held, grounded, quiet state. It's the stillness and the seeing that keeps me grounded. The movement keeps me in movement, always wanting more or different movements or different locations. I mean, what is meditation other than non-movement at all levels? And it's just opening up to awareness, the truth of what I am prior to landing here. and what I will remain after I've left. And in between, lots of change. And when I get identified with the change, that is sukha and dukkha, pain and pleasure. And that is the waking dream, to be associated with the karta, to be identified with the doer, and then everything that the doer experiences is taken personally. But if I were to be detached, would karma accrue if I was detached? So if I had karma, what's going to happen to that now? As long as I stay in that space, yes. When I return to mind, I pick it up again. Mind does that. It likes to cling to the known. So how can I use this, if not to recharge my cells at a deeper level than just nourishing them? If I need anything in my life, it's connectedness, connection, grounded, stillness. Nothing to do with specifics. And to get myself back into the saddle, if there's been a wave, it's just to remember I'm not the pot that's ever changing. What is that which is impervious to all of this, which has actually nothing to do with any of it, other than mistakenly becoming identified with it? So is it a bad thing to be identified with? No, it depends on what your choice is, what your karma is, what your goal is. But associated with it, one just has to realize there will be sukha and dukkha, pain and pleasure, with the identification. As long as one remembers that, then surprises won't be too big. And in the midst of it, I still have the choice of dropping everything and going into emptiness again. And that's the greatest antidote to a mind that's full of stuff and being a monkey. Because when I taste that stillness in the stillness, so to speak, it's something very familiar. It's something the soul knows, but it's not allowed to fulfill itself because it's put into a straitjacket of doership and doing and acting and thinking. And that keeps me in part-ness, the part-ness of change. And the more keenly I'm in part-ness, the more I'm identified with change. And time might seem to go quite quickly if I'm identified with all of this change. Because change is measured in time. If there's no change, there's no time. If there's no perception of change, there's no perception of time. They link. And if any one of you has, in the past, zoomed out to the point where you can't believe that 6 hours have gone by, it means you weren't there in the way of me and mine. I would like to suggest the doer wasn't there. There was the break. Quite a nice break to be relieved. of any sense of doership, especially if it's a having to do or must doership. And so life puts me there. Sometimes I just have to do. And then I can smile and say, yes, sometimes it's like this. But where possible, can I interrupt that now and again with a moment of stillness and awareness to slowly come back to the truth of what I truly am? It's not ever remotely what I think I am. Because what has part-ness to do with clay? What has consciousness to do with my bodies, my different bodies? One could ask, why am I here? And if you ask 100 people, you'll get different answers. But there might be a common thread. Why am I here? Is it just to fulfill desires and avoid anything that's not pleasing? Or does that just reinforce the split in me? So the okayness of what transpires in the mind when it passes through that part of the mind, if it's seen for what it is, it doesn't have the same power. It doesn't have the same power. In other words, I don't have to be subject to the karta. I don't have to be subject to that. Because is the karta consciousness? Or is it an aspect of mind? And mind is not pure consciousness. There's some human awareness there, but I don't know about consciousness. In fact, one often thinks there's a lot of unconsciousness there. Especially today. How conscious is this? Hello, I'm fine. How much consciousness is there in that moment? Or are you just on a robot? Hmm? Hello, I'm fine. They're even skipping words out. How are you? And I'm also fine. Coming straight to the, get the formality out of the way. And when they ask you, how are you? Is it a question? Or is it a thrust? Especially if it comes out, how are you? I'm fine. Are they asking, how are you? No, they're not. There's no consciousness there. There's no still center. In that expression that's been used quite often. When I touch the part, I touch the whole. If I touch your left knee, I've touched you. If you touch the part of anything, you touch the whole. And that would be the part of zooming in on a specific. Because if I can fully be with a specific, I'm actually with the whole. In other words, can I be fully with that flower in awe, in openness, in seeing it as not separate from me, seeing it, slowly starting to see that it might be me, because we've been on the path of Advaita for 2 decades, and the main and the only thrust is that there is only one, not two. And what a relief is that. It's the same as saying there's no free will. What a relief there is in that. Do I have to carry guilt and hurt if it's already ordained what's going to happen to me or from me? So hurt and guilt are unnecessary crippling factors. The mind will dig up reasons for that. Who says there has to be reasons? This is Newtonian Cartesian thinking that the mind is prone to. When I'm fully with one flower, you're touching the whole. If your mind is ticking over while you are being with the flower, then you're being with the flower, there's no whole. Because the mind has cut off the whole with a specific. So in my daily life, if I can zoom out more and more, instead of locking into a specific, but equally, can I lock into a specific in such a way that I give myself fully to that? Because then I'm also in touch with the whole. But it's the in-between state that doesn't do anything for anybody. So yes, I can be with specifics, but how? Well, in a surrendered way. And surrendered only means the thinker's not there, the doer's not there. That's out of the equation. And then what's left, and the only thing you can surrender, is your attention or your awareness. So if I'm with the specific, I'm with the whole. Or I can be in a landscape and zoom out, and that's the same thing. I'm with the whole. So when I can find joy and wonder and awe in a specific, it's not limited to that specific. It touches something in me, and I am all there is, even if I don't want to believe it. I am all there is, and even if I can't see it. That is what all of these sages that we follow would like to have us really get clear. You are the whole. The power is within you. And that is just too much for a conceptualizing mind to handle. It will blow a fuse. But if I can feel into it, and there, if I can again be with the flower, this is not a rose. This is a mystery. And God, what intelligence put this together? Whose intelligence? Not humans, but the intelligence. And who does that belong to? That's the part we can't own up to. It's too big. But what is Bhagavan's message? What is Christ's message? The Vedic message. Tat Tvam Asi. That thou art. That awesomeness is your nature. But it's too big for a conceptualizing mind. And that's why there is this need to zoom out so that the mind can be taken out. So that something is left that can feel this spaciousness, the stillness. And it doesn't matter what I'm touching, what specific there is. The way I touch it with my eyes, or my nose, or my ears, or my hands, the way I touch it is the way I'm touching Gaia and all the people on Gaia. And that's quite an amazing responsibility, because as you touch the part, you touch the whole. There is no such thing as separate parts. It's the story of Advaita. Cannot touch a tree, a flower, a dog in a different way, not limiting it to form. In fact, cannot touch that without physically touching it. Don't we say it touched me? There was no physical contact. Something moved beyond the form, beyond the part-ness. And whenever I'm touched, that's clay responding to something. That's true. When I'm thinking about something, I've dropped the clay. And I'm busy with the pot that's going to change. And we have a fixation on being with what changes, not with what's eternal. And the teachers are trying to point us from the temporal to the eternal, that I am. But it requires a bit of kindling, a bit of practice, a bit of awareness. To find moments during the day to just stop. Hey, where am I? Stop. Be quiet. Even if it's just for 10 seconds. Might seem a long time. But if during the day I make these points of, hey, am I with pot or clay? Because what I habitually default to is what is going to board that aircraft at the end. What have I done with this life? Have I only identified with my potness, the fragileness of potness? Or have I come to sense and intuit something that has no form? Because that is what's going to board the aircraft at the end. So to come to grips with it and to come to present-mindedness about being absent-minded or mind-free might be one of the major goals of a life. What am I here for? If not to transcend form consciousness with all of the pain and pleasure involved in form consciousness. This is how the form should be. But the form always changes. And the soul is wanting something timeless, doesn't want change. So if in the day I can have just a few of those few seconds a day, it's enough in the beginning to reset the compass from magnetic north to true north. The magnetic north is this one. True north is this one. So to reset your compass from magnetic or mental to heart or true requires an ongoing little touch and a reminder throughout the day. And then maybe long term it has quite a significant impact on how I receive the day. And then even what happens in the day and how it happens if I'm at home. In a spiritual way, not in a mental way. Spiritual is such a loaded word. We'll have to find another word for that. But the Vedas make it clear that to be born or to be gifted with a human birth is the most rare gift for manifestation. And even the angels are jealous of someone who's incarnated and can sense and feel. It's written in Eastern and Western scriptures. So we have an amazing gift and an opportunity to find our way home. And we can be obsessed with part-ness and blow it, or we can start to feel into the clay to become that. And maybe there is free choice, where I wish to let my light shine, on clay or pot. And if it's on clay, that doesn't change. Or it's on pot, that will always change. Which one is likely to induce anxiety? Which one is a cure for ulcers? So it's always a choice that is mine. That might be the only free will I have. Where do I let my light shine? On what do I choose to center my awareness? On the ever-changing or on the perennial, timeless? But then effort is required. And that effort daily is required, especially if I haven't grown up like that. And from the sound of music, nothing comes from nothing. Nothing ever does. In other words, there's some effort required. And that is the choice. Am I prepared to honor why I'm here? To grab that opportunity as a human birth with both hands to go free? I mean, if you want a return ticket, it's not a problem. You don't need to worry about this. But I think especially in today's world, I don't know how many people want return tickets. Can't be sure that you'll land back in Hogsback. 6:15, session 4. Huh? 6:15. That's now. That's the end of session 4. Oh, yes, this is 5 sessions. Oh. All right. Well, I believe supper is upon us. We're eating okay, I can tell you.